Perfect. So hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining this webinar on Take Time to Skill, a project that has been occupying us for the past 3 years. So we'll be exploring the subject of this project with you today on the agenda you can see. So that everybody knows, you'll be able to interact with us through the chat. The functioning is on the far right on your screen. You'll be able to write messages. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. We have, of course, a Q&A session at the end, but we can also have questions during the webinar. For today's objective of the webinar, we really want to review the project goals, achievements, challenges, and key performance indicators so that you can really understand what has been going through this past 3 years. We also want to debunk some common misconceptions about artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, share our key learning highlights that emerge from our work, and address the importance of developing new and updated skills in AI and cybersecurity in Europe. So before we start, we're going to be all presenting our organization and ourselves. So let's start with you, Louis and Becode.
Hello, everyone, and happy to be here today for the webinar of the Take Time to Skill project. So I'm Louis de Viron, Head of Tech and Pedagogy at Becode in Belgium. So Becode is a social impact coding school that has been founded on the Simplon model in 2017 with the mission of creating sustainable employment opportunities in technology for both job seekers but also employees. So we are doing training for job seekers but also reskilling and upskilling of employees. And we facilitate also the talent placement in Belgium for tech profiles. We are present in all the regions of Belgium, so Flanders, Wallonia, and Brussels. And we have trained more than 4,500 job seekers since 2017 with a good positive outcome rate of 80%. So 80% of the learners at Becode got a job within the year after their training. And in the context of Take Time to Skill, so we have led the training activities of the project in Belgium, and we'll deep dive in that later, but we have trained more than 400 people thanks to this European project across the country.
Thank you, Louis. For Factoria, I think Noelia.
Thank you, Mila. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to stay here today sharing the results of this 3 years project that we have been doing with our partners, European partners. I'm the director of Factoria F5. We are an NGO, a non-profit organization based in Spain. We have 3 schools in Barcelona, Madrid, and in Asturias, but we operate in the whole country, sometimes with online activities. We have already trained. Our focus is to give opportunities in IT sector to people with less opportunities, people in vulnerable situations, through intensive, inclusive, and free training, based also in Simplon methodology. We started our activity in 2018, the same year than Becode, our partners in Belgium. And we have already trained 4,000 people in different training, mainly in full stack web development, but also in AI, cybersecurity, and cloud, for instance, with almost 80% of success rate historically. That means that 80% of people that finish our training, they find a job in the IT sector during the 6 months after the training. They continue, keep studying technology, but in a specialization level, or they start their own project always linked with the technology. To sum up, our core mission is to transform lives and reduce poverty through education and technology. During the last years, we have made an important effort to certify our training in the public system and also through quality certifications. And also we have important and strong alliances in public and private sector in Spain at local, regional and national level with tech companies and also with public administration. And also during the last year, we have the same way that Becode mentioned, we started a line of also upskilling of professionals. So we work with companies, with SMEs as well, for instance, to offer training. And with this, with the revenue, sometimes in this line, we can afford the scholarship and to give opportunities to people that they have the talent, but they don't have the opportunity and they can afford to pay for private education. So we offer this opportunity through scholarships. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Noelia. So on the Simplon side today, we're 3 representatives, but as you can imagine, in our organization, many more people have worked to make this project happen. We have Theo today, that is an international program manager, Tim, that is an international development and pedagogical innovation manager, and myself as a project manager. So Simplon has been created in 2013, and as Becode and Factoria has the core mission of making digital skills and professions accessible to all in order to meet the needs of today's and tomorrow's economy. We are an international network of socially inclusive tech bootcamps, and we have been leading all training activities in France for the Tech Time to Skill project. And this has allowed us to train more than 340 people across the country for the past 3 years. In total, since the creation of Simplon, we have trained 40,000 people worldwide, with almost 80% of positive exits. So that's exactly the same that Noelia was explaining just before. So 6 months after the training, people were able to find employment or going back to training after a Simplon training. Also to note that our initiation, upskilling, and especially vocational training are being certified and are being recognized by the Ministry of Labor in France. And this is also a huge difference for people coming to Simplon. To note also that all trainings are free of charge for trainees. And this is really allowing us to work with needs. So people that are not in education, employment, are training when coming to Simplon. So we all have a common core mission at Becode, Becode, Simplon, and Factoria. And together we have worked on this project that Louis is going to give us more an overview so that you can all understand a bit deeper what Take Time to Skill is.
Yes, so the project of Take Time to Skill was a project that has taken place from 2023 to 2025, whose goal is to boost the digital skills of the SMEs, basically, and boost the digital skills of SMEs, European SMEs, by providing trainings in AI and cybersecurity with a pedagogy which is accessible. So also for non-tech profiles. The final goal is to support the digital transformation of the SMEs with practical and action-oriented trainings and learning, which is in the DNA of the pedagogy of all of our training centers. So the project took place in Spain, France, and Belgium, with cross-country impact and a lot of collaboration between the different training centers, specifically on the pedagogical side and on the content side. So the content was common to the different, the content of the trainings, was common between the different countries and training centers. One of the side objective was also to increase the employability of the job seekers on high demand digital competencies, targeting here AI and cybersecurity, with the objective for those people to join SMEs later and then increase the again with that objective of increasing the cyber resilience and the AI awareness in the European SMEs. So of course, this project was designed in 2022 and started in 2023, but meanwhile, a lot of things have changed in IT, specifically if we look at the AI. But that was also a very good opportunity because this AI increased a lot in the world, and it was a good opportunity for us to support the SMEs in that transformation, in that constant evolving world. If you can go to the next slides. So that was the objective, and for the objective, we have targeted 3 different audiences. The first one is the job seekers. So as I said, the idea is to build build the skills of the job seekers in AI and cybersecurity for them to join sustainable employment in SMEs in Europe, and then based on those training, we enhance their employability with this hands-on training in AI and cybersecurity. First target audience, the job seeker. Second target audience, it's the employees. So the SME employees. Our objective was to strengthen their digital capabilities to adapt to the technological change, and mainly in AI and cybersecurity again. And again, we see that a lot of things are changing, so it's crucial, it's very important for the employees to keep on track on those technologies and to ensure also that their companies keep track, but also to ensure a long-term employability for them. And so we have for them organized training for apply AI practical tools, but also to strengthen their good cybersecurity practices. And we see that there is a lot of connection between AI and cybersecurity, because with the evolution of AI, cybersecurity becomes more and more crucial. But Timothée will talk about that later. The third audience was the decision makers, the SME leaders and managers. And for them, the goal was more to understand how strategic it is to implement cybersecurity and to invest in AI. So understand all the implications of AI and cybersecurity, both on the strategic level, cultural level, and ethical level. And in the trainings that we have offered, we have identified with them relevant use cases and business risks that are related to those 2 sectors, so AI and cybersecurity. At the end of their training, the goal for the decision makers was to create concrete action plans to drive the digital transformation with AI and to increase the resilience, to drive the resilience regarding the cybersecurity. So 3 target audience, and 3 for each of the target audience, we had a different training. And so, Mila, if you can switch to the next slide, please, thank you. So the 3 kinds of training. So for the job seekers, we have organized boot camps of several months for really helping them to transition into a new role in AI or in cybersecurity. So in total, we have organized 9 editions of those boot camps in the 3 countries. We enrolled almost 200 participants, and something really impressive is that we have in that audience 43% of women. Why is this impressive? Because if you look at the IT world, in the IT world, we consider that we have in the tech profiles only 18% of women. So here, the idea was to increase, also to bring more, to help women also to find their way in the IT world. So so it's really a success to reach that level of the percentage of women in trainings. Then we have organized trainings for employees, so it's 35 hours of trainings, basically 5 days. We have organized 32 trainings in AI and cybersecurity, with almost 500 participants and more than 50% of women. So the numbers that you see here are not final because the project will end of 25. So we have still a few trainings to go, but it's almost it's already a good representation of what happened. So those trainings for 5 days, this idea was to create action plan in cybersecurity and to create projects for including AI for the organization, for new projects that could include AI in the organization. It was training in active pedagogy with for the AI a little bit like in a hackathon mode to create something for the organization. And then the last training was training for decision makers that lasts 1 day, so 7 hours. We have organized 57 trainings with more than 800 participants in Europe, and again, almost 50% of women. So in total, 98 editions that have been organized with almost 1,500 participants and almost 50% of women. And so I didn't tell, sorry, I go back to the decision makers training. So the decision makers training, the idea was to really make them more aware about the possibilities in AI and about the risks in cybersecurity and how to prevent a risk and how to secure the company to decrease the risk. But again, Timothée will give more info about that later.
Thank you, Louis.
Yes, and there is just one slide more, sorry,
Yes,
about about the participant, just to give an overview about who participated in the B2B trainings for the SMEs. As you can see, the size of the companies is quite well distributed, and we have very small companies as well as larger SMEs. So it's distributed between the different sizes. And then for the sectors, we have mostly person in consulting and services, and then people in manufacturing, engineering, and a lot of people also in real estate and construction, then finance and IT and communication. So here you have a telecommunication. So you have an overview about of the sectors of the SMEs that have been included and enrolled in those trainings. Thank you, Mila.
Thank you. Okay, for this next part, so before we move into the core content of the webinar, I'd like to take a moment to look at some common misconceptions about AI and cybersecurity applied to SMEs context, but not only. So these topics, as Louis described, AI and cybersecurity are moving extremely fast, and naturally a number of myths have developed around them, especially among organizations that are still exploring these technologies. So these are some misconceptions, and if you want to interact with them in the chat, don't hesitate because I could be asking you some questions. Okay, so the first misconception is that the consequences of a cyber attack are very limited for SMEs, and this is really false because if an SME is suffering from a cyber attack, it could create a lot of very difficulties for them, having, for example, a loss of sensitive data. So that could damage trust and reputation for this SME. It could have a business interruption, paralyzing production and services, financial costs, because for an SME, according to the French Cybersecurity Agency, a financial cost for a cyber attack for an SME is almost $500,000. So that is huge, and we sometimes are not imagining it to be that expensive. And also an SME could be facing legal risks after a cyber attack if it is sued for not properly protecting personal data. And we have, I think, all heard stories about SMEs or larger companies having data breaches, and that could be very, very painful for them. Another misconception So I have a question for you, and you can answer in the chat. Even our team, if you don't know the questions, you can participate. So after a major attack, how long does it take on average for a hospital to be rebuilt, to rebuild its information system? So we have heard a lot of stories also in the news about hospitals getting attacked, cyber attacks, and this causes a lot of damage. Okay, so we have 3 months in the chat. I could be waiting for another seconds if we have other answers. 1 month. Okay, 6 months. So actually, you're very far because it's approximately 18 months of post cyber attack reconstruction. So this causes a lot of damage. First, for the information system, but also when we talk about hospitals, for example, we talk about personal data, we talk about people that cannot be, for example, cured or receiving medical aid for many months after a cyber attack. So yes, I hope less, but not approximately 18 months. Another question. So on a European scale, how many companies feel ill-prepared for digital transformation despite the rise of AI? And it's 2 out of 5. So around 10 million European companies are feeling ill-prepared. And as Louis said, everything is developing very, very fast. So with this project also, we are trying to accompany these SME to understand these technologies, adopt them, and continue working with them through this development. Okay, so this allows us to go into the core content of a webinar with the learning highlights that is going to be presented by Tim.
Thanks a lot, Mila. Yeah, I think so. The main goal today is for me also to present the different trainings and the different training offers that we developed in this project to answer and to respond to all these major developments in cybersecurity and AI. Before I do that, I'd like to give you kind of an outlook of where we stand now. I'm not a big tech expert, but this project and others have made me quite aware of the major trends going on. And I think also we have to keep in mind this is not only for experts. Actually, we have to keep in mind that AI developers or the people that make AI, they make generic tools without actually a very specific clue of how people are going to use them. We're the end users. We're inventing new uses of AI every day. And we're the ones who are concerned by cybersecurity also. It's not a topic only for experts. That was a big thing we wanted to put forward in this project, that neither AI, neither cybersecurity or only for experts. And we can become cybersecurity ambassadors for our SMEs, even though we're not technical experts. It's just, let's say, digital hygiene and making sure we have the right best practices. Anyway, in terms of what's happening in the AI scene today, oh, actually, is that the latest version of can you maybe refresh the page?
Sure.
Or am I on the same one?
Let me check. Sorry for that.
Sorry, otherwise I'll use that one. But
Yeah, that's what I have.
okay, that's perfect. Yeah. I was missing just one bullet point. Yeah, so I think if one thing is clear is that how fast this has been going. Gen AI is only 2 years old, and I think the adoption is massive. We can see that I'm sure everybody here has been using Gen AI before, or almost everybody. And that there's a massive adoption, including by SMEs, of these tools of Gen AI for content, whether it's just, you know, chatbots like ChatGPT, or for image generation, content generation, to do some research, etc. So the use of AI is really widespread today, especially of Gen AI. But some SMEs, and a lot of SMEs actually, lag behind what we could call digital maturity. So usually what happens is that individuals are using AI, but without very clear guidelines from their company, without maybe clear also practices in cybersecurity on how to share or not share data, when it's ethical to use it or not, without proper training, etc. So that's why also our project like ours come in to maybe, you know, train people also to these ethical and data issues. But so there was an interesting experiment recently, I thought was interesting, is that they asked people to use AI, they asked people to do their work, but knowing they were under the supervision of HR. And so a lot of people who would normally use AI would not use AI, even though it would reduce significantly their output and the quality of the output, just because they thought, you know, oh, I'm being supervised by HR. I need to show I'm confident in my own judgment and I don't need AI. So we can see that there's this kind of discrepancy between people using it, but actually like no specific like internal policies, especially in SMEs, on whether it's right or wrong, or how to use it and how to use it ethically. Another big trend that we're seeing, and I'm sure you've heard about it, and that's also something I think that big companies are adopting, but SMEs not so much yet, is the rise of agentic AI. So what's agentic, like what are AI agents? I'm sure some of you have some idea, but maybe Mila, if you can go to the next slide. Basically, like, so here, let's imagine for customer operations, an AI agent is not just a chatbot like ChatGPT or Gemini that you talk to and you never exit the chatbot. It's actually, let's say, an agent that can collect information. So from here, let's say on the left, like client conversations, whether it's by phone, by email, by different messages, interprets the messages it receives, and then make decisions on their own. It's connected to the company system, so your Salesforce, your CRM, whatever. It's trained with your own knowledge, with the knowledge of the company. So you can give it all sorts of documents. It can be connected to your different platforms, etc. And based on its own, like, let's say, on the model it uses and all this knowledge is trained on, it can decide which action to take. So in this case, let's say maybe send an invoice. And so to do that, it needs to be connected to email applications, also to your invoice applications. But it can basically autonomously do this whole workflow. Maybe retrieve a booking, call a human, and have a conversation with like a AI generated voice, and then like update your systems on whatever interaction it had. So as we can see, it's like a multi-step workflow, which connects with different tools and which makes autonomous decisions. What we're seeing too right now is like multi-agent systems where different agents talk to each other to organize work. So this is a trend. It's being made more and more accessible through tools like N8N, for example, or Make, and actually OpenAI just released their agent, the AI agent platform, which makes it possible to create these things without actually knowing how to code. So yeah, that's a big trend that I think SMEs too should look into, because it's part of where the market is going. Maybe Mila, if we can go back one step, and at the same time, like we have models that are being, it's kind of like the same trend, but we have models that are becoming even more powerful every day and more, let's say, multi-modal, in the sense that you can interact with them with voice or text, or send them images or documents, and then they can output documents, images, text, videos. So the input and the output is like more and more multi-modal. That's what we would call it. And we know it's a race, it's an ongoing race. I think we're all aware of that. Right now, I think the biggest contender right now, the latest contender, let's say, of the past few days, but maybe next week it'll be somebody else, is Google's new Gemini model. They have the third generation of their Gemini model, which is like breaking new records. And so we know that these technologies are evolving and being better and better. Just maybe some funny example from this new Gemini 3 model. If you can go 2 slides ahead, Mila. Yeah, this is a guy I follow on LinkedIn. I really encourage you to follow him too. It's really interesting. Ethan Mollick, who writes a lot about AI and everyday uses of AI. And so he just wanted to test this new Gemini model, Gemini 3. And so he asked it to build a time machine. And so basically he only said like, make it very, very good. And then like asked it to like make it better a few times. And this is what it came up with. I don't know if you're able to click, otherwise I'll share the link. I don't know if I'll take you to, I don't know if we can try it really quick, just to show like what it's able to do.
Yeah.
And this is just from talking to a chatbot.
Here?
Yeah. So for example, I don't know, say like set a date, like, I don't know, it's in 2025 right now. Let's say, let's go back to 1920 Barcelona.
Oop.
Yeah, and then scroll down and say like engage shift. So again, like this is just this guy doing an experiment with Gemini and telling him to build a time machine. And so what we can see here is that it built its own time machine. It refers to itself. So basically it's giving a description on the right, like to like automated text on like, the damp air of the Eixample is thick with coal smoke. And so it basically calls to itself to write a little text and to generate an image on the left of what Barcelona could look 100 years ago.
I'll share the link in the chat, so if other people want to try it.
Yeah, if you want to try the time machine. Now, I mean, like it's just a funny thing that, just with like maybe 2 or 3 prompts, it was able to build like this pretty cool application. And also it's an application that's integrating its own model, Gemini and Nano Banana for the images to generate its content. Maybe go back to the main slide, Mina, please. Yeah, and maybe the last point on AI is that, well, like I said, I think what we need also is like to define best practices at organization level and ethical practices, cybersecurity practices, data sharing practices. So that's very important, that I think decision makers, leaders really define an internal policy for AI use and really check, what are the tools that we want to use and how. At, let's say, regulatory level, at EU level, you maybe heard about the AI Act. Let's say it doesn't directly concerns SMEs unless you're building AI systems. But maybe, yeah, if you skip, I think 3 slides ahead, Mila, there's a description of this AI Act. Yeah, so the AI Act basically divides what AI, like different types of AI, some that are just unacceptable for the EU and so downright illegal. So you're not allowed to create an AI system for social scoring, for example, for mass surveillance, for obviously for manipulation or causing harm. But then we have like high risks one where which can be like access to education, employment, public services, law enforcement. So any SME building any company or SME building these high risks AI systems or products would need to pay for a conformity assessment from the EU or their member states. That's not quite clear yet. And so, yeah, it's really something that's being more and more regulated. And then you have transparency obligations if you're building other types of tools. So maybe if you go to the next slide, Mila, what the EU did is that it is trying to implement support measures to make sure that SMEs can respond to these conformity obligations. But a lot of it is supposed to take place through the member states. So as always, like let's say the level of maturity and implementation by the member states is quite diverse. But however, yeah, it's good to know that normally SMEs by 2026 that have access to regulatory sandboxes. That means that you're going to be able to build and test your system and know in real time whether it complies with EU standards or not. So these sandboxes are going to be free for you to test your AI systems in them, and see if you comply. They also announced that the compliance assessments that you have to pay for will be proportionate to the size of your company, and that if you don't respect certain regulations, the fines also would be, the amount of the fines will be proportionate to the size of your company. So yeah, they're trying to simplify documentation also for SMEs, and basically engaging engaging member states to provide training and communication efforts, like our project actually Take Time to Scale. I think it's a good example. Maybe we can go back, Mila, just to talk a little bit about cybersecurity. So cybersecurity, I guess that'll come as no surprise. A big trend right now are AI-driven attacks, when you can see like everything you can do in terms of deep fakes, phishing, like how easy it is to create an email that looks really real. So obviously, cyber pirates are using Gen AI a lot to generate attacks. There's also a growing supply chain and third-party risks, especially for SMEs, because usually what happens, what do I mean by supply chain and third-party risk, is when like SMEs, like ourselves, for example, at Simplon, most of our services are not in-house. We use a lot of digital services from outside, from providers, and we trust that they have the right cybersecurity measures. But that's where a lot of attacks come from right now, is that they don't only target your company as such, they target the provider of your digital service, and that becomes an entry point to get to your company data. So that means we need to be very cautious also in choosing our providers and choosing the digital products that we buy and subscribe to, and understand what their cybersecurity policy is, and not just assume that like they're doing things correctly. And another thing that's very important in cybersecurity right now for the past few years, it's like zero trust approaches, where basically before the idea was basically to see your company as a house, and once the robbers are in the house, that once they got into the entry door, they can basically rob anything because they've entered the walls of your house. Now, zero trust approaches is much more to make security like at every door of your house or every door of your offices. You need a badge, and not everybody has access to every room. So I don't know if you're, in a commercial role, for example, and selling stuff, you have access to the CRM, but maybe not to all the financial systems. If you're in finance, you don't have access to all the CRM, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's making sure that not just, not just whenever the user connects for the first time, that's where we check security, but that throughout the behavior of the user inside the services, we check that his behavior is normal. We ask several times for authentication, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of the zero trust approach explained by a non-expert. So I hope it's clear. And also, we have new regulations affecting SMEs, especially the NIS2S2, which is the Network Information and Security Directive, and it's the second one. So that's for any company that's above 50 employees. So I'm sure a lot of you here, and above 10 or above 10 million euros in yearly turnover. So I'm sure it concerns a lot of you. There's like really new kind of obligations and really showing that you have an internal cybersecurity policy in terms of managing risks, of having continuity plans, like what happens if an attack happens, how do I go on, and how do I go back to normality as fast as possible, and what do I do during the crisis, and yeah, just a series of practical measures that you have to enforce. So for example, multi-factor authentication, managing incidents, also supply chains. We've mentioned like supply chains, like making sure your supply chains are safe. Also, to notify incidents, also you're under obligations to notify incidents whenever they happen. And also, I think it was mentioned by Mila before, but it's important to know that here, CEOs or directors, leaders have a legal responsibility. So if there's a specific failure, the law can go directly, personally against CEOs. So that's really something to keep in mind. Yeah, the Cyber Resilience Act is less targeted directly at, let's say, normal SMEs. It's more for digital service providers. So if you're an SME that provides digital products or services, to make sure that your products or services are secure by design. So making sure that whenever we we build a digital service, that it's already secured, and there's a whole series of obligations there as well. Okay, I think we can move on. So basically, to answer and to respond to all these challenges, which have been evolving actually for the past 2 or 3 years, with the Take Time to Scale project, we've decided to have 3 types of targets, as Louis was mentioning. Decision makers, mainly through awareness programs, which were shorter, so 1-day programs. So basically, what are the strategic challenges and strategic trends in AI today in a 1-day course? Same thing for cybersecurity. What are the main risks, the main threats? How do I build and implement a cybersecurity strategy in my company? Then we had 2 upskilling programs. So 5-day programs or 35 hours. We'll see that they were usually spread out in shorter sessions, but one was like we called it kind of AI essentials, but basically it's a series of modules to train to like very up-to-date AI tools. What are the really see what AI tools are out there and how they can help in very specific use case for your company. So we really try to have like hands-on activities and kind of action plan also oriented activities, so that you can really think, okay, this is relevant, this is not relevant, this is relevant, but I need to use it this way in my company. So really make it oriented so that each participant could really think of specific uses for their context. And cybersecurity ambassador, also, I think, yeah, what's essential to mention in these upskilling programs, we had no like big technical prerequisites. It wasn't for experts, as I mentioned before. So cybersecurity ambassador was open to any SME employee. It was just about understanding the basics of cybersecurity, what are the best practices for an SME, and also helping you become like this ambassador. So how could you like transmit also transfer these best practices to the rest of your team? And again, you don't need to have a background in IT to become a cybersecurity ambassador. It's really about having this digital hygiene and making sure that your colleagues are able to apply them too. And lastly, we had more like professional boot camps, where the goal was really to train specialized professionals. So we had one course where we trained AI developers, which I'll explain in a bit more detail later on, and one course for cybersecurity solutions operators, which would basically operate cybersecurity solutions, implement them into a specific company needs. Yeah, just a bit more detail on each program. So AI for decision makers, like I said, was one goal, more oriented towards leaders, managers, and SMEs. Most of the time we would do it during 1 day or 2 half days. And here, like I said, it's basically exploring use cases, of course, of Gen AI, but not only Gen AI. I think Gen AI also is at the center of the stage right now, but we can't forget like other types of AI which are really useful. So predictive AI, AI that manages to like segment, for example, your clients into different segments. There's all kinds of AIs that are useful. Computer vision, which is like AI that is able to basically see defaults in a product, for example, or it's basically intelligent cameras that are able to detect on images or on videos what's going on, interpret these images and act on them. So there's different use cases from AI apart from Gen AI, and that's also what we wanted to put forward in this course. And then kind of more strategic planning. So how can I implement an AI strategy? What are the use cases that makes more sense in my company, etc. Maybe we can go on to the cybersecurity one. So cybersecurity, same kind of approach than AI, but applied to cybersecurity. So again, for decision makers, understanding what are the main threats, what are the main, let's say, solutions or best practices to respond to these threats. And then how do I plan business continuity whenever I am attacked? And how do I integrate cybersecurity in my overall strategy? So that was a 1-day course, which we'll talk about the challenges later, but we've had like more trouble to attract people to cybersecurity because I think it's less sexy and it's less attractive than AI, and is seen as something technical. Maybe it's seen as a cost. But actually, whenever we had courses, we'll talk about that later too, but we started mixing like AI and cybersecurity in 1-day courses to have both in a 1-day course. And actually people came for AI, but came out saying like, oh, the cybersecurity part was so interesting, and even like more interesting even than the AI part. So I think we really need to make people more aware that it's a very important topic, as we've been saying all along this webinar. And two, yeah, like I said, it's not just for technical people, it's for everyone, and it's strategic for your company. Yeah, moving on. And then, so yeah, the 5-day courses were kind of a continuation of the 1-day courses, but like much more applied to, okay, so now what? You know, like if the 1-day courses were the what's, the 5-day courses were the now what. So in terms of AI, it was more about, like I said, really trying out different tools, trying out different use cases, and figuring out which ones would be best for your company. So whether it's LLM, RAG is like whenever you give information to Gen AI so that it trains to your own company data, to your own context. And so to make it much more specialized for your context, so we used these kinds of tools, Gen AI tools also for like multimedia generation, so image, sound, videos, you know, and that's more maybe for marketing and communication purposes. And also automation. How do we talked about agents earlier on, but we can have like very simple agents that automate, I don't know, yeah, in like, for example, people applying for a course, you know, automatic emails, you know, like whenever it gets the form, and in terms of whatever the form was, I can automate a response by email, etc. So automation was also something that was really popular in these courses. Yeah, maybe the next slide on cybersecurity ambassadors. Yeah. So this maybe the most important thing here is the little rectangle in blue, where basically here we had like different modules on best practices for cybersecurity. But basically throughout these modules, the goal was to update a cybersecurity master plan for your company. And at the same time, so that's like so that you have kind of a cybersecurity strategy for your company, but at the same time also designing awareness activities for your core workers. So what we found also is that, and that's what our initial conversations with Microsoft on this project were, that they were saying basically the people that know about cybersecurity are usually not the best ones to actually, they don't have the best skills in actually building a culture of cybersecurity in the company, of being like good ambassadors, of speaking in public maybe, or creating awareness activities. So that's why we really need top levels or other kind of profiles to get into cybersecurity, because cybersecurity is something for everyone in your company to develop, like I said, as a digital hygiene. And so it's not just about having one person trained at that, it's about having people who are able to spread the culture and spread best practices in your company. So that's why we really wanted to focus on this cybersecurity ambassador role. And in our course, they designed activities on, okay, on every topic, how can I basically make that a company practice? And so the goal was not to become like the best expert, but to, yeah, again, be the best ambassador. And maybe the last one on our longer courses. So this was more like to supply SMEs and other companies with the right specialists, the right workforce for and the right talent for their needs. And so each country applied a slightly different program or content. Same thing actually for the short courses. We all adapted the specific contents to our needs, constraints, and context. But mainly we had AI developer bootcamp, which basically it's a developer, but that knows how to work with AI models and integrate AI models into everyday applications. So to give you a specific example, I know, let's say you're a bus company and you have an AI model calculating your prices in terms of like many different factors that the AI models takes into account. Well, then you need to integrate the AI model into your online application to book bus tickets. So that's where like the AI developer will not create the model itself, but he knows how to integrate and adapt this AI model to your ticket setting application, basically. And for the cybersecurity operator, same thing. He's not building all the system himself. Basically, he's using, he works for a cybersecurity firm usually, and he's using systems either from, I don't know, from Microsoft, from Amazon, from different cybersecurity providers. And he adapts the solution and implements the right solution in the right way and configures it for your company needs. So it's really about knowing how a cybersecurity solution works, and making it work in your company and your context. So yeah, they're in both cases, they're, let's say, kind of technician junior roles, but at the same time, like very expert junior roles and roles that a lot of companies need today. So yeah, we've had good results in job placements for these roles, because they're very, let's say, hot skills to have at the moment. And I think that's it. Oh no, yeah. Yeah. In terms of the main challenges we've had in implementing these trainings, and then I'll give the floor to my colleague Theo, so he can say like how we've addressed these challenges. What we've seen is that it's hard for SMEs to free up the time for their employees to train, which is normal. The smaller you are, the more essential is every person, and like freeing up several days, especially in a row of an employee's time, is quite difficult. So yeah, this was a big challenge, and so yeah, Theo will tell you how we addressed it. It was harder, as I mentioned before, to attract people in cybersecurity training than AI. Like I said, I think SMEs are not fully aware of the risks, of the obligations, and they see it as a technical topic made for experts. So that was a challenge in attracting participants for cybersecurity. No problem for AI, but a lot more for cybersecurity. We've had like very diverse profiles, both in terms of individuals or organizations, to participate in our courses. So it's hard to have like one course that meets every need at the same time. And actually, Theo will tell you about this, but we've moved on from, especially in AI, we wanted to have an AI prototyping course so that you could really build your solution, an AI solution designed for your company. But it was too hard to manage with very different people in very different companies. So that's why we moved on to a more like AI essentials course. But also, I think, this course is interesting, the AI prototyping one, if you're dedicating this course for a specific company, not necessarily when you have people from different companies coming in. I think it's clear by now that these technologies evolve incredibly fast. Well, especially AI, but then AI has impact on cybersecurity, as we've mentioned. So that means we had to update the training content very regularly to keep up to date with the latest trends. And also, we did a lot of online training, but some companies, some SMEs in particular, don't have the basic connectivity or skills to participate in online training. So as Thea will mention, we kind of had to hybrid our trainings to have like both online and offline training. And I'll give the floor to Theo just to explain how we've solved all these challenges.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So yeah, just moving on from the challenges that we faced, we came up with some recommendations from the project about for mainly for projects, sort of training. And these would be sort of the following. First of all, to create.
I think
Yes?
you have an issue with your mic. We can't really hear you properly.
Ah, sorry, this happened yesterday as well.
Is that better?
Oh, much better.
Okay, great. Sorry. So first of all, for our recommendations would be to create highly modular training. The objective is to create training sessions which really are adapted to the partners, the trainees' priorities and constraints. And so, for example, some trainees have different levels of knowledge about AI or cybersecurity, but especially just different basic knowledge on IT skills. And so it's really important to adapt in that way. Secondly, this is sort of moves on from modular training. It's also about having flexible formats. So as Tim was saying, we sort of moved from in the project from a situation where we had a quite rigid training structure, and we quickly realized that wasn't going to work, and we moved into a really flexible format depending on the country, but also depending on where and why we're organizing a particular session. So some courses are online, on site, hybrid, either 5 days, one day after the other, or maybe 1 day a week. We also started having modular training in terms of integrating, maybe having, for example, just 3 days and then 2 days the following month. Basically, any kind of training is possible, and the more flexible training providers are, the better it's sort of adapted to the trainees. And offering a sort of a wide variety of types of training allows people to follow the best training for them. Thirdly, and this is, I think, our main recommendation, would be to give mixed AI and cybersecurity training. As has already been said, it was difficult for us, especially in Belgium and France, to attract companies to cybersecurity training. And it was only through sort of using the AI training as bait that we were sort of able to attract participants into cybersecurity training. And they were, I think, really happy that we did so. And so, yeah, having a mixed format is really, really important. Then, of course, having strong partnerships with SME networks. It's our project has shown that a really strong link between a training provider and an SME network, such as there was between Factoria F5 and PIMEC in Catalonia, was the most effective way of creating sort of positive outreach to trainees, potential trainees. One of my favorite recommendations would definitely be to constantly sort of a constant iteration on training paths. So we had basically constant updates of the training sessions, particularly in AI, in the content. As Tim said, this is because AI tools change all the time, and so we were constantly keeping up to date. In fact, the project which we wrote in 2022 was basically no longer viable in 2024 when most of the trainings really got started. And so this is potentially a problem for some e-learning modules where you have to sort of spend a lot of time creating decent content. If you're having to update that content constantly for e-learning, it can be quite difficult. Whereas our content was more based on sort of the knowledge of our trainers, so it was easier to do on our side. Then one of our recommendations would definitely be to have intercompany and in-company dedicated trainings. This was a really interesting conclusion, I think, from the project, is that intra-company, so in-company dedicated trainings worked really well. Some of the training sessions we had up to 25 people, sometimes from one company, or perhaps sometimes the whole company participating in a particular training session. And these were really worked really well. And in fact, for the sustainability of our project after our EU funding ends in a month, this is perhaps the best sort of light that we have for the future is for selling our training is in-company dedicated training sessions. And lastly, a need for a sort of larger national or international cybersecurity awareness campaigns. I think this is really important. Cybersecurity has been really pushed by the EU in the last few years. It's a big sort of topic, but we had trouble sort of finding SMEs to join our courses at the beginning, and it was only once people went through the training that they realized the importance of cybersecurity. So we were in what the English always call a catch-22 situation, and so I think we need to double down on cybersecurity awareness campaigns. And talking of the EU, one last thing is just to talk about cross-country collaboration. I think is really important. Our project took place in 3 European countries, and the sort of diversity of the teams that we had and the trainees that we had and allowed us to sort of develop this huge range of training, which basically made the project successful. So those are our main recommendations. And I think we're now moving on to any questions that you may have.
Yes, thank you, Theo. So exactly, if you have any questions that haven't already been answered, don't hesitate to write through the chat. I see that we already had one asked while Tim was talking. So how did you motivate non-technical profiles to engage in digital training? I don't know who wants to answer that question. Tim, if you want to go back, or Louis, or whoever.
Yeah, like I said, I think the whole purpose of the design of the trainings was especially to make sure that every person could train to these things, especially non-technical people, that there was no prerequisite. So I guess it was, first of all, like making sure the trainings by design were designed for everyone. We had a design task force in the project, and we all agreed on that, of making it as accessible and open as possible. And then I think in the way we communicated in the outreach effort to participants, to really make sure that we said it was open for everyone, that the content was accessible, and to really make them understand that these are issues for everyone. And then in the actual implementation of training, I think especially like I have AI right now on the top of my mind, where, for example, you had different set of tools you could play around with, and if you felt more comfortable, you could go much further in your experimentation than if you were more, let's say, more of a beginner in these tools, and you would stay at a, let's say, beginner level. But the fact that it was very experimental, activity-based, made it, I think, accessible for everyone to try out and test out things on the level and also the use case that was most interesting for them. I don't know if other people want to
maybe
comment.
another point is that AI is so everywhere now that it targets everyone. It's not like AI is not technical anymore. It's open to everyone, and we hear about AI in the news, in the television, and so on, the social media. So it's not like a pure tech or geeky topic. And I think it changed a lot during the time of the project. It was an opportunity for us because it was easier in a way to promote it towards not technical people. And for cybersecurity, maybe something to add, the key message is that the cybersecurity breach comes from people. And it's the human who, and I mean, everyone can be at the root of a cybersecurity issue. And by taking that message, you can enroll people to say, okay, we will not learn you how to become a cybersecurity expert, but how to, by simple things, avoid 99% of the attacks. And so the message is really important. And of course, also this. So for cybersecurity, the message is important. And for the AI, we are taking advantage of the worldwide situation about the artificial intelligence.
Thanks, Louis. It's kind of your answer is kind of linked with the second question we got about which types of roles do you consider a priority for training in AI and generative AI or cyber in SMEs. Maybe you want to continue.
Yeah,
on
I can
question.
continue on that, but for generative AI, it's really everyone, and everyone has to at least be more aware about what it is. It's not that everyone will use it every day, because in some roles it's not important or relevant. But anyway, it's everywhere, and it's good for everyone to be aware of it, also to use it in a secure way. And that links to the second topic on cybersecurity. It's the connection between AI and cybersecurity is so high, and the impact of the generative AI on the cybersecurity is so high that everyone has to be trained in both topics to have at least the basic knowledge on both topics. So type of roles. Today, there is no type of role that should be trained. It's everyone that has to be trained.
Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. And just maybe to complement Louis, I completely agree with what he just said. And maybe also, I think it's important to have CEOs and decision makers participate also in these kinds of trainings so that they can develop a vision and a strategy for their company. It's good to train everyone, but it's and it's essential to train everyone, as Louis said. But I really feel like we need CEOs to have like explicit strategies on how to best use AI, as I mentioned before, and what's the cybersecurity policy and strategy in our company, even though it can be a simple one if you're a small company, but it still needs to exist.
Thank you. And I feel like all questions are linked, because we got one from Alex asking what strategies work best to help small businesses understand both the urgency of cybersecurity and the long-term value of adopting AI.
Yeah, maybe I can start answering this one, then I'll pass on to Louis and Tim or anyone else who wants to speak. But I found really interesting the idea within the project that it was much easier for companies, even small companies, to understand the long-term value of adopting AI because it was seen as a business opportunity, whereas cybersecurity was seen basically only as a cost, right? So there's a real difference between the two. And the sort of situation with cybersecurity is it's actually relatively easy to convince a company or someone within a company of the urgency of cybersecurity once you get hold of them. You can. I really liked some of the trainers would get CEOs or get decision makers or employees to hack their own companies, and it's pretty easy to do so. The difficulty is getting hold of them in the first place, which is why we were talking about the recommendation of having sort of like mass. Looks like Noelia's being hacked, yeah. That's why we recommended the importance of sort of EU-wide campaigns, is because of that. It's because of the this sort of the difficulty of getting hold of people. Once you get hold of them, it's really easy to convince them of how important cybersecurity is. And for AI, I'm not an expert at all, but yeah, I think the main thing is making sure that you show people that it's an opportunity for development and for new business. I'll pass over now to Tim or Louis.
Yeah, I don't know, Louis, if you have some concrete ideas. I think we're a small organization, so maybe we didn't have the means to have like big campaigns at scale. But it's a personal opinion. But I believe we don't really need to have big campaigns on AI. It's already there in the newspapers, on your feed, and people are trying it out, and so people are really conscious, as Theo just said, of the opportunities. Maybe not like very specific ones, but at least that there's something out there that they need to pay attention to. I think in cybersecurity, if I was a country, or if I had the means, it would be like big public campaigns on this is how much you can be fined if you don't respect your cybersecurity obligations, or like this is how much a company lost from a cyber attack, or like what Mila was showing us about hospitals earlier. I think there's kind of I don't know. Yeah, it is kind of a fear mongering and fear factor strategy, but I think we need to make people aware of the risks. Actually, and maybe Louis, you can talk about that too. I know that in one of your trainings, you had participants, maybe a couple of years ago, like hack their own company and show them like how easy it was to hack their own company. So I think like these kinds of results, whether it's a large scale campaign or like smart kind of activities like that, to make people aware of the risks, are something that need to be developed at scale, because otherwise, if you're not aware at least a little bit, you won't come to an awareness session of a one-day awareness session. So we need to, it's kind of a chicken and the egg problem, but we need to create this large scale awareness.
And as Theo and Tim said also in the presentation, it's not easy. We have to agree on that. For AI, okay, it's everywhere, but for cybersecurity, it's not easy. And as soon as you didn't have any attack, you don't want to invest in there. That's what we hear a lot. People have a lot of priorities. They have a lot of their plates, and so cybersecurity, it's really if something happens. So we have to change that mindset. And for me, those trainings that we have organized take part in changing those mindsets as well.
Yeah, thank you. And also to continue the topic, because that's what Louis and Tim have just been saying, it's also a question of advocacy about the training and about cybersecurity, less AI, but still. So you'll be the first to know that we've been working on a white paper that will be uploading in the coming weeks, and this white paper which further deepen these topics that we have tackled today. So we'll oh, sorry, I was reading Alex's answer. But yes, we've deepened those questions, and we'll be happy to also to share it, and hopefully it can also help advocate about these topics. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if we have further questions. Maybe not. I feel like we have covered a lot of topics already, and we're approaching the end.
Just to reply to Alex, maybe one thing that worked really well at Simplon was that our IT department basically hacked our president, and he sort of thought he was immune to cybersecurity attacks, and so they sent him some phishing emails, and he just dived straight into it. And after that, he sort of became an advocate for pushing for training internally for all of the employees in the company.
Yeah, and we actually receive a lot of like monthly test emails. maybe once a month or something like that to see if you're going to click on it. Emails that are really well done. And so like, yeah, it's a good exercise too internally if you want to develop, like I think some companies can help you provide this service, but to kind of like send out phishing emails to your employees or your colleagues and to see if they click on it. Like obviously fake phishing emails, but ones that tell you you've been hacked,
Okay, we have a last question maybe. So in your opinion, what policies can the EU implement to support SMEs in their digital transition? So that's the hardest question for the end, I think. I think we've still maybe tackled it a bit when Tim, you talked about the European acts on AI and cybersecurity.
Yes, I think they need to. I mean, I'm not going to be very original, but like, of course, like training efforts like this one. So this is an EU-funded project, so I think they need to keep at it. What we're seeing right now in EU funding, well, it's being reduced, obviously, like a lot of public funding right now, but also being targeted a bit more to like big projects and big ecosystems. And I think, obviously on our level, we think it should be a bit more spread out to maybe more local actors. Like if you can see the really amazing collaboration between PIMEC and Factoria F5 on this project to cover like really Catalonian SMEs, for example, I think was quite impressive. And so that's, I think if we have like a bit maybe smaller projects, but that really target training providers at a local level, is really something that could help. And also like making sure that SMEs have the right information. So like I said, maybe funding campaigns as well, like large scale campaigns, and the right access to tools and costs. So like reducing costs, basically, whether through subsidies or, making public services more available for SMEs, so that the cost of cybersecurity or AI adoption can be reduced for them and facilitated for them. So that there's many mechanisms, I guess, that can be used for that. I talked about one, which is making sure they pay less for compliance assessments by public actors, for example, or they pay less in case of a fine. But yeah, I guess like to take into account really the size of the company and accessing public services, public compliance, and maybe giving subsidies for more private services.
Thank you, Tim. So I think we're approaching really the end, and we also want to take a few minutes to thank you for joining this webinar, and also thanking the partners that have worked with us on this project that we've mentioned, but it's also nice to shedding light on them. That helped us enable making this project in Spain, in France, and in Belgium. I'm also putting you, if you want to know more about what our institutions are doing, or if you want to reach out having any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I don't know if someone from Becode or Factoria want to add anything, but it was also really a pleasure to be all of us today explaining our project, and that is also coming to the end at the end of this year. So it has been a lot of work, but a lot of successes, as Louis has also shown. A lot of challenges, but as mentioned, we have many recommendations that came out of our work, and we'll be also continuing advocating on it through our white paper. And if you want to learn more about success stories from this training, you can also join the LinkedIn page from Take Time to Skill, where we share some articles about some trainees that have followed any training on Take Time and what this has enabled them to do. So thank you very much. And if you guys want to add anything before we end this webinar.
Thank you for the organization, Mila. And
With pleasure.
I couldn't say more that it was a great partnership altogether.
Agreed. Okay.
Thank you. I
Have a
think
great
that it's very important to share the results of this 3 years project, and it's one of the aim of the project as well. So that's an example that when we work together, different countries, different organizations, we can get much more results and more quality in the conclusion. So thank you very much to organize and the participants.
Yes, thank you, Mila, for the organization and everybody of the team. I think we have made it a very successful project and very necessary for the times nowadays. So thanks a lot to everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.